Hello again. In this video we're going to focus on finishing our hero image component, and also we're going to do the search bar component. So it's actually going to be a lot of fun in this video, because now we're going to see our progress with the component as we're going to see the finished hero image and search bar in our app that look like this. So let's get on with it. We start in our hero image component. So open up that one, the HeroImage.js file. So we start off by giving our wrapper class a class name with RMDB hero image. And as I said before, these are predefined classes that I've made for you, so you don't have to worry about the CSS code. But for this one, we're going to do some inline styling, because we're setting a background image for this one. So when we do inline styling in React, we can do it like this. We write style as usual, and then we do a double curly braces. One because we're entering the JavaScript again, and one for the style object inside. And as I told you, we're not going to do that much CSS in this course, so I'm just going to copy and paste this one. Well, the one thing though that we should look a little extra at here is that in our URL we're getting the props, and we're going to send in some props for this component later, and we grab the props.image here. So I'll write it again for you so you can follow along here. So we have the URL, and we grab our props from props.image. And then we finish it like this. We also have a default background color 1C, 1C, 1C. And we finish it with a backtick, because this one, we use backticks here also because we're getting this expression here to get the props. So it's important that you use the backticks here for this one. And what is this? Yeah, it's a small gradient, so the white text will pop out more and it'll be more readable in the hero image. Well, then we go on, we build the rest of our divs. So we have one div with a class name of RMDB hero image content, like this. Then we have another div with a class name of RMDB hero image text, like this. And then we have an h1 tag, and we go back into JavaScript and we get props title. And then we have a paragraph, get back into JavaScript and grab the props and text, like this. So this is pretty much everything we have to do with the hero image component for now. So we'll save this one, and we can check out our app here. And for now, it will just show a dark background, but we will soon come back to this and feed it with the props from the home component. We jump to our home component and go down here to the render method and the return statement. And here, first, we have to wrap our hero image and search bar in a div. I'll show you why in a second. Like this. First, we can write the props that we're going to send to the hero image. So we have one that's called image. We do a template literal again with a backtick, and we grab our image base URL. Then we need to grab our backdrop size. We do a /, and we also grab our URL for the image. And this one is in the state. So we grab this from this state hero image and backdrop path, like this. And we have to have this backtick between the curly braces at the end. And then we have the title. We grab the title from the state, this.state.HeroImage.original title. And we also have the text. We grab this from state also. State HeroImage overview. And these are predefined properties from the movie database API. So what else do we have to do here? Well, we have to check that the data is loaded into our state before we can render out the hero image. So we can do this by a ternary operator. We place this ternary operator around our wrapper div, this state hero image. And what we're doing here, we're checking that the hero image isn't null. If it isn't null, there should be some hero image in the state. And we do a question mark, and everything after the question marks will evaluate if this is true. And we do a colon and a null. And also we end it with a curly brace. What this will do is it will check if the state hero image exists. If it exists, it will render out the hero image and the search bar component. Otherwise, it will show nothing as we're returning null. So this is a ternary operator. It's very handy to use when we're going to do some conditional rendering. We can also do like this. We can check if our component is working by saving. And as you see, we're grabbing the image and the text. So our hero image are working just fine. Nice. We can also have our console open so we can see if there's some errors and things. So that's the hero image. Now we're going to make the search bar component and also talk a little about controlled components. Firstly, we have to do a callback function for the search bar. And this search method has to be in the home component because we want to alter the state of the movies because we are going to grab new movies and we do that in the home component. So we have to send this search method down by props to the search bar component. But we'll do that later. We create the method first and then we create the search bar component. And lastly, we're going to send the function by a prop to the search bar. So we go up below our component didMount method and we create a new method with an arrow function called search items. We also have a parameter called search term, like this. So what do we have to do in this method? Well, firstly, we're going to have two endpoints for this one. We're going to have one if we're not searching for anything. If the user deletes everything it searched for, it should go back to its original state and show the most popular movies. So this is going to be one endpoint when we're grabbing the popular movies. Then we have an endpoint when we search for movies. So we're clearly going to need some if statement in this one. And we're also going to need to set the endpoint to an empty string in the beginning. Then we set the state. And what do we have to set in the state? Well, the movies, we are going to create an empty array for them because now if we're searching, we want the movies to clear and we want to just show the movies that we search for. Then we're going to set loading to true because we're going to show the loading spinner. And then we're also going to set the search term in our state. So as you can see here, these are exactly the same, the parameter name and the name for the property in the state. So when we have the same names, we can just skip this one and write it like this, and it will work just fine. Then we have to do our if statement. We check if we have a search term or not. If we not have a search term, we're going to grab the most popular movies again. So we set the endpoint to that. And for this one, we can just copy and paste this because it's the same. Like this. And then in our else statement, we set the endpoint to a search URL. Yet again, we create a template literal with a backtick, and we're grabbing our API URL. Then we write search and do a / movie, and we have our API key. Just as before, we grab that one, API key. We set our language to English US, and we also have a query for this one. And the query are going to be the search term, like this. Then we do a backtick, and we end this one. Now we just have to call the fetchItems method to grab the movies. We also send in our endpoint as a parameter, like this. So that's our search items method. We're going to send this one down to the search bar component later on. But for now, we just switch to our search bar component and we'll finish this one. What do we have to do in our search bar component? Well, for this one, we have some state. And why do we have that? This is going to be a controlled component. And what is a controlled component? Well, when the user types something in the input, we want to have full control over that input field. So how's this gonna work? Well, when the user types something, we set our state to this value. And then we set the value in the input field to our state. It's kind of like a circle where everything is going around. I'm sure this will be more clear for you in a second when we actually code this. So in our state, we're going to have a value, and we set this to an empty string for now. This is going to be the value from the input field. Then we can sort out our divs in the return statement. So firstly, we give it a class name of RMDB SearchBar. And in this div, we have another div with a class name of RMDB SearchBar content, like this. And then we have already imported the Font Awesome library, so we can just use it here. So we write Font Awesome, and we have a class name of RMDB FA Search. And we have a name, and here we select what icon we want to use. So we call it search, and then it will grab the search icon for us. And we set the size to times the original size. And we self-close it. Then we have our input field. We have a type of text. We have a class name, RMDB SearchBar input. Then we have a placeholder text that is search. On change, this is going to be a callback function that we're going to create in a second. We call that do search. We have a value, and this is what I talked about before. We grab the value from the state. This state.value. So the input field is always going to have the value from the state. And then we close this one. We can save. If we go back to our app and we type something, it won't work because we're not setting the state now. We're not changing the state. It's always an empty string for now. We'll change this in the do search method that we're going to create now. We create a do search method with an arrow function as we did before. Do search, and we also want to grab the event for this one, like this. Firstly, we set the state. We set state. We want to set our value to the event target value. And this is the value from the input field. Every time we press a key, we'll set the value in our state to what we just typed. Then we're going to do a little special thing for this one. We're going to have a timeout, and that's because we don't want the search method to fire on every keystroke. So we wait half a second to see if the user have typed, for example, a whole word or something before we call the search. So we clear the timeout here, this timeout, and this one, we're going to put that here as a property. Timeout, we set it for null for now. When having it here, we can access and clear it when we're in another function. We clear the old timeout and then we assign a new timeout. Set timeout. We have an arrow function inside here, like this. It's in here that we're going to call our callback function. This props callback. This state value. We're getting the callback function from props, and we send in our value that we search for. And this value is in our state as value. And let's say we want this to fire every half a second after we start typing something. Like this. When we type something, we'll clear the timeout and the timeout will restart. So we always have half a second when we start typing something before the search method will fire. We save this one and it still won't work because we're not sending the callback function to the search bar component. So we'll do this from the home component. Scroll down to your search bar component and we create a prop called callback. And we send in this search items. So now the search bar are going to get this callback function and this one will fire every time we do a search. For now, it won't show us anything, but it's working. We can do some console log here. We can console log out, console log search term, just to make sure that our controlled components are working. So we write something, test, and you can see test is popping up in the console, so everything is working. This is our finished search bar component, and in the next video we're going to create the rest of the component and actually finish the homepage in the next video.